Hi, in this video I will show you how to start your midterm project. So make sure that you review the slideshow that was prepared for you in Google Classroom to go over the requirements for the assignment. But we are moving on to organic shapes. So we learned about geometric shapes. We used letter forms to create geometric abstract designs, and now we're moving on to organic. So here we have a geometric shape versus an organic shape. So organic shapes are based in nature and don't have, angles and straight lines, and they can't really be defined by geometry terms, basically. So looking to inspiration from nature, natural objects, anything from clouds to water to sea creatures to plants, animals, whatever it may be. So for this project, you are going to learn how to use the pen tool as well as incorporate a color harmony into your design. So the pen tool is found here. If you click and hold, you get a flyout menu with some different options. So the original pen tool, again, I would encourage you to follow along in the tutorial videos and use those exercise files to practice so that you can learn how to use it. But basically, if you wanted to create a shape, you could click and drag, and this would tell the line where you want it to curve. Then you can create another anchor point here and drag in different directions, and that's going to get that line to curve into whatever shape you want. And then you can continue to click to finish up your shape depending on where you decide to go with that. Okay, and then also make sure that when you are clicking on your pen tool, up at the top of your options bar, you either have path or shape. Select shape. You can select the fill for your shape. It can be any color for right now because you can change that later. And then leave your stroke at no stroke. And that will make it easy for you to start your project. So now I have two organic shapes made by the pen tool. So that's the pen tool. So again, practice that. In the newest version of Photoshop, we have the curvature pen tool, which is pretty cool because you don't have to worry about clicking and dragging to make those, to tell Photoshop where you want the line to curve. You can just sort of click. Oops. There we go. Let's see. Okay. Oh, it's going to keep connecting this. Why is this doing this? Step backwards. Do a new layer. So you can click here, and then, so you have one straight line. You could close your shape to start with and then add these different points. You can see that they sort of pop up, okay? Or as you're going, you can draw the curves, and then you can continue going and drag in however you want. But Photoshop can help you make some pretty cool shapes this way. Okay, so then you would have an assortment of organic shapes here, and that would be what you would use to start your design. Okay, so once you have an understanding on how the shape tools work, you can start to figure out what you're going to do for your project. So again, it's going to be an abstract composition. You want to have a strong focal point, movement, balance, unity, variation, repetition, all that good stuff. So you should spend some time sketching in your sketchbook. When you come up with an idea, then you can start to draw. So one idea that you could use is taking a picture or a sketch that you've created, even if it's something that looks like this in your sketchbook. You can take a photo of it on your phone and then import that into Photoshop or scan it, whatever works. This is something that I created out of metal in college, and I have a lot of sketches in my sketchbook of the same concept here, but we could use, I'm going to just stick with the curvature pen tool for now. I'm going to change the color so I can kind of see it a little bit better because it has a black background. But this might be a foundation for a shape that I would want to create. for my abstract design. So I could go around and create those anchor points and see how that automatically curves and creates that shape, and I can go in and bring that in if I want to, and you can make those modifications as you work. And then I'll continue, I'll go down here to where it curves out again and bring those in. It was somewhere around here, right? Okay, and then close my shape. Okay, and oops. And you can make any modifications you want. So then that can be one shape, right? Sort of reminiscent of what I've got going on here, but then I also have these other shapes present as well. So I can create a new layer and then create another shape. So maybe I will pick a different color. So again, I can see it a little bit better. Oops. And maybe I'll draw sort of this oval-y shape, or maybe this like eye-ish shape. I don't know what you want to call that. And we'll finish that up. And then I can use these shapes, I can overlap them. I can, you know, line this up in here however I want, and then I can change the colors by clicking back onto that pen tool, and I can easily just change the colors. But you have to keep your layers separate. So each component you should keep in a separate layer. So then I can use these shapes to start creating my abstract composition. Okay. You can also use a drawing that you've completed. So this was a lithograph I had done in college as well, based on sort of an abstract representation of sea urchins. So you can use this as a foundation. Maybe like these sort of wavy shapes are kind of interesting. So again, I would click on my curvature pen tool and I could just start to click around and get some different shapes that way. And, you know, maybe this will kind of curve down here and go back up, and I'll scooch this down to make like a wavy shape, and then maybe I'll make a new layer and I'll use this one as inspiration. So I'll start here and click around and come back out and then back in. Okay, and again, you can move those anchor points out and change the shape. You can make your adjustments that you need to make to fit the design. And then, you know, so now I have these two red shapes in separate layers. Okay, shape 1 or shape 5 and shape 6 are in separate layers. So again, I can change the color. If I click back on that pen tool, I can change the color. So maybe I want to stick with like a blue kind of color palette. Again, you're selecting a color harmony. So either analogous, complementary, split complementary, or triadic for your composition. You can also use a photograph that you've taken for inspiration. Let's say you really like a particular type of flower or whatever you have. Again, pen tool to trace it and create shapes. But now you don't want it to look exactly like a flower when you're all done, but it can be the basis for inspiration for your shapes. So using something like this, where you are going around and creating, you could use the petals individually, right? Or you could draw the whole flower. So maybe I'll just keep going around. This is going to come back out, and wherever there's sort of a change in direction for your shape, that's where you want to draw those points. Bring that back out. Okay, and it's going to take practice. You got to play with the pen tool and tweak out your design so that you're happy. So that might be a shape. And then, oh, I did that separately, oops, that's okay. And then maybe draw another sort of little abstract shape to represent the center of the flower. Maybe you use the leaves as inspiration for another shape. Okay, so it's up to you how you do that. And then you can also do something, you know, if you have a sketch that you've created in anticipation of this project. Now this would be something maybe you want to draw all of these shapes sort of individually and then start to overlap them, you know, and that's fine. So it's up to you how you come to your final conclusion. So let's say I'm going to start with these guys. You know, I'll just use all of these shapes. So you guys can use as many or as few shapes as you want. You know, the repetition of those shapes will create unity, you know, but you want to have a little variation as well. So maybe I won't use this guy. Maybe I will use that one. So from here, now I can take these shapes and put them into my final composition. So I will show that to you in 1 second.